Whoa! Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit the follow, subscribe, like, bell notification buttons. Hit all those buttons. Go ahead and tell a friend about us. Tell a family member about us. Tell a carny about us.
Yeah.
That's right. Or tell your local amusement park games people about us. Yeah, anybody in amusement park, tell them all about us. With that, we're continuing our deep dive into indie films for the month of September. That continuation starts or continues with Adventureland. It was released April 3rd, 2009. It was written and directed by Greg Mottola. It stars Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, Martin Starr, Jack Gilpin, Margarita Laviva, what a cool name, Wendy Malick, Kristen Wiig, Bill Hader, and Ryan Reynolds. The synopsis. In the summer of 1987, a college graduate takes a nowhere job at his local amusement park, only to find it's the perfect course to get him prepared for the real world. That's bullshit. But
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Adventureland. This is your first time watching this movie, Alec?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's fun. That's fun. You're welcome, bitch. This was my pick that I put on the vote list, and so thanks to our Patreon, we got this voted for. Charles, or Beta Ray Bill, as he prefers to go by for the current time being on Patreon. Thanks for that. Okay, this movie could have gone on my guilty pleasures list if I hadn't known we were going to add the list for indie movies as well, because I laugh my ass off at this movie. And it's really not great. Let's just be clear. And especially because we just, we talked about Donnie Darko in our last episode, and the acting is outrageously good in Donnie Darko, even though I don't love the film. I don't enjoy watching it. This one's the exact opposite. I enjoy watching this movie. The acting is awful, with the exception of a couple of moments with Jesse Eisenberg, who can be very good when he puts his mind to it, and Ryan Reynolds, surprisingly enough. And then the weird friend that's played by Martin Starr, because I love Martin Starr. Outside of that, Kristen Stewart, in my opinion, is one of the worst actresses on the planet, because she's the same in every movie, and she's so awkward that I'm uncomfortable. But I
feel like you should only play this type of role, though. This is the role that is made for Kristen Stewart.
Sure. It fits her weird, awkward personality. And it's like, this movie's like it's like a workshop on awkward actors acting together, because Jesse Eisenberg's very awkward in almost everything he does. So the two of them together are like this soup of awkward that's just outrageously uncomfortable at times throughout this movie. But it's just a weird dichotomy for me. Like, we just got done talking about last week a movie that I don't like watching but has some great acting. This is a movie I love watching, has terrible acting. So it's a weird transition when it comes like that. So it's really funny to me. But yeah, I can't wait to hear what you thought of this movie.
Of our picks, this has been my favorite so far, and probably will continue to be my favorite throughout the whole recording. It feels the least like an indie film, while at the same time feeling the most like an indie film. Because it has this, I think it might be, kind of like place or environment that it's put in, where it's, carnival workers in the 80s. You can tell this is like stories from the director's childhood that he grew up, and he's just playing through his memories.
Yeah.
So something like that, straight indie film. Like 100%, this is the director who's coming in and doing it. But then you add in like all of the underlying factors, the going away to college, parents losing out on money, you can't have this big trip that you want, kind of all these bummer things that are happening. And then it shows the dark side of carnies. which would be very much, you could do a whole TV series on the dark side of carnies, throw in Rennies for, season 2, and you're golden.
Yeah.
So that makes it feel almost like a big budget kind of big studio film. And then you throw in the actors who, Jesse Eisenberg, I love him in Zombieland, love him in Now You See Me. Get him confused with Michael Cera and Andy Samberg almost 47% of the time.
Fair.
But great. Ryan Reynolds. This is like what?
Right?
Like, this is not Ryan Reynolds. I mean, this is a few years after Van Wilder and a few years before Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know he could play a somewhat serious role.
It's weird, right?
Ginormous asshole, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
So you have kind of these bigger name. Actually, even Kristen Stewart this time was starting to up and coming. I think Twilight was coming out around this time.
Yeah.
Which she starred in. So you have this group, and Bill Hader is a side cast member, which once again makes it feel kind of like this big budget film.
Yeah.
You don't cast Bill Hader as this awkward general manager of Adventureland.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's towing the line almost between that indie film, that true indie film, and the big, studio.
Mm-hmm.
But I cracked up pretty much the entire movie.
Oh yeah.
Start to finish, because you have, even that almost opening scene, right, where Jesse Eisenberg's going over finances for his trip to Europe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need another $212.37.
Like down to the penny.
Yeah. Like, because of the $963 that you guys are contributing and the $347.37 that I'm getting from this bond or whatever.
Yeah.
That just sets the tone for the entire movie afterwards.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
Yeah. I love to hear that you loved it. It's always fun when people enjoy it, but you're weird like me too. So I figured you might at the very least laugh as much as I do, because you also laugh at awkward weird shit like I do. And this one, there are some quotes in this show and some scenes, like when they're sitting there making out, like the two of them are making out, and the weird kid, like the guy that does like the parking lot, walks up and they're like, "Oh shit." Scared. He's like, "Park's closed, Dad." And they're like, "Oh yeah, thanks for it. Scared the shit out of me. Park's closed, Dad." Yeah, we're leaving it. Park's closed. It's just, and then like but the funniest line, and I think the one that really sold, because the first time we watched this, Casey used to work at an amusement park when she was in high school. Like, we have Lagoon, which is the Utah amusement park, and I say amusement park in the same sentence as Lagoon very loosely. I grew up in one of like the most amusement park dense areas of the country, especially when in the 80s, when I was a kid, I lived in Northeast Ohio. So there was Cedar Point, Kings Island, Geauga Lake, which no longer exists, and that's creepy. Google Geauga Lake sometime and look at like the old empty hole. Roller it's fucking creepy. But we had that one. We had SeaWorld right there. We had, not far off, there was a couple of Six Flags, and then it was nuts, the amount of amusement parks. There's a reason I love roller coasters, because I rode a shit ton of them when I was a kid. But we moved to Utah, and they have Lagoon, and it's like this baby. It reminds me of a modern Adventureland, if I'm being honest, because it's like this little local town run. All the high school kids and junior high school kids that want to work at Lagoon in the summer. Okay. And so Casey worked there. We watched it. She's like, "I have to watch it because I got to see," right? Different decades, but and so we laugh because she would say, "Yeah, that's fucking right.
Accurate."
and like the prestige of the different fucking departments.
Games or rides.
Yeah, he comes in and he's like, "Well, I want to be on rides," because rides is what you wanted to be on, because that's where everybody's happy and excited, and that's where they want to be. Games, everybody knows, are a fucking ripoff, so nobody wanted to do it. And food's the worst, because you're stuck in these hot boxes in the fucking summer with all the ovens and shit. Well, Casey was a foodie. She was part of the food stuff. But like she laughed when he comes in. He's like, well, you look like a person that could work games. And he's like, oh, I'd rather be on rides. No.
Your games.
Your games.
You look like games.
And then like he walks out, he's like, oh, they put you on games? Oh, you're a fucking loser, or whatever it is. It's just, and that whole thing. So that's why we watched it, was because she was a carny. She worked at this amusement park for a handful of years. And then I fell in love with it when Bill Hader's character kept fucking yelling at people for missing the goddamn clown mouth. Like, they're throwing shit away, and he's like, in the clown mouth, fuck. And then, like, the moment when he's like, hold this, and he gives her the mic, and she goes, get him. And I lost it. And every time I watch it, I still lose it, because it's just weird, random, Kristen Wiig, Bill Hader, greatest fucking combo, and they're together, and they're just making fucking weird-ass jokes. But yeah, when she just dropped, get him, and he's running around chasing this fucking guy around the clown garbage can. It's great. Fucking, it's those silly moments in this movie that make me just enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah, and I think Bill Hader is great at that, because most of those moments involve Bill Hader for me. Like the baseball bat where he goes after the guy who's just goes out yelling at him, just waving the bat around.
Do you want to test me?
Yeah. And then goes back in and just calm as you could be about like financials or whatever they were going over.
Yeah, they were talking.
Or the fucking corn dogs.
Oh my god.
Dying.
Yeah.
When these get delivered? Yesterday. Forgot to put them in the freezer? Yeah.
They smell weird? Yeah.
They smell weird, yeah. But they always smell weird.
Yeah.
Hey, so fry these up.
Such a great fucking part of the movie.
It is, but that scene should be like 30 seconds shorter.
Yeah.
But they stretch it out and it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have a handful of them, but the other one is when he takes over the games from Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh god.
And he just goes into full carny mode. So I work in not amusement park industry, but I work in a fun park industry, right? So indoor fun park stuff. So every year we go to IAPA, which is this big convention. It's held in Orlando, Florida, and it's pretty much water park, amusement parks kind of come together. Huge short flow, really cool thing. But something that they do is put on classes, right? So one of the classes I went to a couple years ago, where they teach about like leadership or hiring or stuff like that, or how to like make a team enthusiastic. Yeah. So a couple years ago, I went to a course where the guy giving it was a carny, carny for life. And he was Bill Hader.
I love it.
Because he was talking about how he gets excited and how, when he goes on a game, he'll take over a game and just go for broke. Yeah. And I was sitting there watching Bill Hader's character. I was like, oh my gosh, it's real.
That's so funny.
To at the point I was sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, this actually happens. Like I can visualize this happening. Now where the boss comes out and he just takes over the mic and just goes for it, unleashes, because if you get to that point in like carnival or even like something like the Renaissance Fair, like you're in it.
Yeah,
you are knee deep in this. This is what you want to do. It's not a part-time summer job anymore. You are in it because you enjoy it. And Bill Hader just turned it up, dial all the way to 10 and went for it. And I loved it.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and I love too, like on the flip side, you have Jesse Eisenberg doing it. When like he tries to get excited, he's just like, yeah, we have yellow and he's leading, and we have green that
last
never
place.
Last place. Like it's him trying to be that was really funny as well. But like, yeah, it's just those moments. And I think that's the weird thing about this movie is it's really kind of heavy. It's really kind of dark. There's a lot of the human condition, shitty parts of life that are explored. Like you have the cheating husband but the guy that has no self-confidence cheating husband. He's like the local rock star in Ryan Reynolds. And he's sleeping with one of the girls at the park. Well, one of our main characters, right? That creates this whole dynamic with her and Jesse Eisenberg's character. But like you have that moment, but then and then she is obviously, to steal a quote from the movie, she's the home wrecker by the end, right? But the home wrecker of a relationship that was done long before it got started. And this is a guy that
first girl, right?
Yeah, not even close. Well, and then this is a guy that like Ryan Reynolds' character like can't even. His claim to fame is that he played the guitar with
Lou Reed's or
Lou
something
Reed,
like
but he doesn't even know the fucking actual name of his most famous song because he just uses it to get all these girls, right? Is that and like to get the guys to think he's the coolest fucking thing ever. So it's like you have that dynamic there, and then you have this girl like, what's her, Lisa P. Like when she shows up and she
Lisa
uses,
P's back.
Yeah,
Lisa P's back.
It's so funny. Like he's running around, Lisa P's here. It's like she uses her dad's illness as a way to get people to pity her, and then she goes out with this dude, like, and is like leading him on and talking about how she's so. But it's just like there's not a good person in this movie, period. But it's so fucking funny because in the way that they dial up the humor in the midst of all of this human carnage is genius writing, because you can't. And I think part of it comes from it's so realistic. Like there's a moment like when you meet his Frigo, his friend, and like he's yelling at him about being on games or whatever, and she's like, "Do you know this psychopath?" And he's like, "Yeah, he used to be my best friend, and then I turned 4."
Yeah.
I'm like, but then the fact that Frigo's constantly punching him in the dick, like I fucking die, because that was my friends and I used to do cup checks all the time. Like it's so fucking stupid. Like we would never full on punch people like that.
Yeah.
But we do the cup checks and you get our little fucking snapback. And if you got caught wrong, fuck, it hurt. So, I mean, you watch it and like the reality of what's going on. And then you hear Casey talk about, and then even to your point, like you see these caricatures that mimic real life. And you're like, and that to me is a kind of movie that in a lot of ways, like I'll get enjoyable. Like I don't love when I get presented, and we'll talk about this on another movie that we're going to review. I don't love being presented with things that I'm like, this is too familiar. It's too uncomfortable for me to have to rehash and live through again. But this one's just enough absurdity mixed with just enough reality that I can see both sides and see the character development and the storytelling around the human condition in all these different forms. I mean, you have the anti-Semitism that you're going on. You have the mental health concerns. You have the divorce, especially at this time in the 80s, 87 again. You have the rise of divorce and the the latchkey kids, and you have this is the heart of Gen X right here, these kids. And so it's just interesting to see again that human condition mixed with this just beautiful comedy of how ridiculous real life actually is. You know what I mean? This kid wants to go to Columbia to be a fucking. One of my favorite conversations is in the car with M and James, and they're sitting there talking about him wanting to go to Columbia University to become a writer and to write the news and do these travels books. And she point blanks asks him, "Why do you need a graduate degree?" And he starts talking about the boys club that is the media and the news or whatever. But at the same time, like, that's the point. Why do you already have a degree. Why do you need a fucking graduate degree to go write a book? You don't. Right. Anyway,
but it's that kind of like stigma, right, that you get pulled into. And I even like the kind of, how do I put it, stereotype, I guess, of the European trip changing you, right? Because he's hinging his future on his best friend coming back from Europe, and they're going to go to Columbia together, and that falls down the drain because his best friend, his eyes were opened, and it's all about the now, business type of a deal. Yeah. And so you have poor Jesse Eisenberg, whose plans have collapsed in a 2-month time frame,
Mm-hmm.
which, that mimics real life as well. Don't make a plan because, or was it like, don't tell God your plans because it'll ruin them or something like that?
Yep.
However the saying goes. So it's like, don't make plans because everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Or don't get so caught up in your plans as being your way out or your future or something like that, because what's Murphy's law? If anything that can happen will happen or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but it fits into everything because you have people who have their lives planned out like that.
Yeah.
To crossing every T, dotting every I to make sure that this is everything. And the kind of the sad part is some of them start when they're like 5.
Oh yeah.
To plan this out, and it's parents who are planning out for them and everything like that. But you never know what's going to happen, and you might end up having to work at Adventureland for the summer.
Yeah.
And so, how does that work into your plan, and what do you do there?
Yeah.
So I kind of liked how you have almost this flow through to by the end, he kind of realizes I have to make my own way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I can to make my own way.
Yeah.
Sitting around waiting for the good to happen or stuff to get fixed is never going to get fixed.
Yeah. Well, and I love too that it's kind of intimated that, and they never come out and say it, but how miserable this summer's been, right? He's working at Adventureland. He gets involved with this girl that's unavailable and in her own weird situation, not only with her parents and at home, but with, this Mike Connell character that is really dragging her down and using her to make himself feel better, right? And then it's just an ugly triangle in this whole thing. But at the same time, when he does pick himself up by his bootstraps and he goes out and he says, fuck it, I'm going to go to New York with nothing and I'm going to figure it out. In 10 years, he'll probably look back and say, even if he and M don't end up staying together, whatever, that's the kind of experiences in life that, as shitty as it was in the moment, those are the things that you look back on and go, fuck, you remember that summer in Adventureland? Man, that was fucking greatest goddamn summer of my life looking back on it. But even in the moment, it was terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's another very relatable piece of this movie is you're looking at all of these hardships that the different characters have, right? They're in the middle of this down economy of the late 80s where interest rates are on the rise, layoffs are happening, like all of this, the mini recession that was going on. I mean, it wasn't mini, the full-on recession that was happening at that time. High interest rates, all that shit. And in the moment, it sucks. But those are the things that create character, right? Those are the things that build you as a human being. And so that's another piece of this movie that I love is even though I don't pay attention to that shit when I'm watching it, I'm more watching it to watch Bill Hader go running out of a fucking trailer as Kristen Wiig throws the perfectly timed baseball bat into his hand as he goes out and chases this guy down. But you can't help but to notice, and when we talk about this movie, you have to talk about the character building that happens and the life lessons that are learned and the realizations of young adult life saying, fuck, shit is hard, but I need to make things happen and I need to make the most of it. And I can live through anything, more or less, right? And especially, being that close to that generation. I mean, they're 1, 2, 3 years off of me, being mixed in with that generation. That Gen X is, I relate to them, and that they're one of the tougher generations. They went through a lot of shit as kids and as young adults. So it's very interesting to watch it play out in this movie. And again, this is another one that we could have put on our movies with great soundtracks because it had some outrageously good music, except for Amadeus.
Well, I love how they played that one off as well, where it was like this song, I can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a great mix. You had Poison in there.
Oh.
Just to name one. But every single, and this was another one that used it well.
Yes.
Right? Where it wasn't used for frivolous purposes.
Yep.
Like even the running joke with Amadeus was funny because they play this song like 20 times a day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it almost worked as a transition piece too, right?
Yep. Well, and anytime something bad was happening,
it would
right
go.
Before it happened, Amadeus would come on. Like it's Yeah, like right before he gets chased down and almost gets the shit kicked out of him. Right when he gets the panda stolen at knife point, and they don't play it really loud, but you
it's
can
there.
hear it. It's back there, and then some shitty stuff happens. It's so interesting. I love it. I lost a panda at knife point on your first day.
Nobody wins a giant ass panda. Yeah. Nobody. I also really enjoyed the rigged games and the story as his friends walking him through it.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. 3 inches. Nope, can't get it. These mannequin hats, half of them glued on.
On the basketball rim that's banged into an oval
shape.
Yeah.
Back there, it looks round. Up here, decidedly not.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, it's just silly things like that like, or like when he breaks the fucking Matterhorn ride, when she lets him flip the switch or push the button, and Ryan Reynolds come popping out of it. He goes, "You really fucked this thing up." Or when he's standing there and he's talking to Ryan Reynolds and the kid pukes, and he's like, "Oh shit," and it gets on his hand or whatever. It's just, there's so many stupidly random moments that add so much depth to the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, you got a boner. James has got a boner when he gets out of the pool and he's been making out with M. And he jumps right back in. Do you have a boner?
Well, that was another like running joke that happened throughout the film, because it's several times.
Yep. Oh God. Apparently there was a real Adventureland was a real park. Located in Farmingdale, Long Island, New York. I didn't know that until just now, but yeah. Adventureland. I can't even. There's so much to talk about. So I guess that's the last thing that I want to talk about. Is this is one of those sneakily fulfilling movies. Like, there's a lot to this movie. We talk about the comedy and we talk about some of the more
this is
obvious.
A JJ movie is what it is.
It really is. You're not wrong. Like, it fit within my pattern again. Like, it's on the surface, it's really bad, but there's a lot of real depth to the movie as well. Like, when you watch it, and it's so interesting because like I said, we started watching it because Casey was a carny when she worked at an amusement park. And by the time I was done, I was like, this might be one of my favorite movies, period, because it's just so interesting and there's so much to it. So it's sneaky how good this movie is, and yet how bad it actually is too, down to a level. So it's fun.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
You ready?
I don't really have much to say.
I don't have much else either.
This movie is what it is. You know what I mean? So
it is definitely what it is, JJ.
Yeah, it is. All right, Alec, your turn.
My turn to go first.
You go first, buddy.
Boy. Okay, let's see. So, out of the movies that we picked and then had Charles pick, this is by far the best one.
That's fair.
As far as from a movie cinematic standpoint, as bad as it is, it's still the better on the list of independent films that we picked. So that tells you a little bit about us. Yeah. It's enjoyable. Just giggled for most of the movie, and even the awkward parts, because of who's doing the awkward parts: Jesse Eisenberg, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, even Kristen Stewart. Sure. I mean, they are all awkward actors and actresses, so it fits. And then you just throw in Ryan Reynolds for icing on the cake, makes it for a great movie. It also has that realism to where, like we talked about, this is kind of what being a carny's like. You have these guys who are pulling scams on you to win the games. You have people who are upset all the time. You have kids projectile vomiting everywhere.
Yeah,
right on you. They'll do it. The kids don't care. So I enjoyed that. I'm gonna give this a 4, and I will definitely watch this movie again. Because the bad part, or the bad that I could see in this movie, was just that it didn't always flow.
Yeah.
Right. Because of the acting, where you had these kind of hard stops, hard transitions. But I mean, that's very minor to, the beefs I had with Donnie Darko. So
Fair.
easy 4. I will watch this again many times because as downer as it is still funny.
Oh yeah.
And so you feel better after watching it rather than feeling worse,
Yep.
which is insane. So yeah, 4 for me. What do you think, JJ?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I love this movie. Like it's one of my go-tos. To your point, like if I'm having a shitty day, the irony is this is a pretty dark movie, but it's so fucking funny that this is one of those movies. Like if I'm having a shitty day and I need to like relax and laugh and calm down, I'm gonna put this movie on because I know that I'm gonna laugh. There's not a chance that Bill Hader chasing some dude with a baseball bat after he tried to beat the shit out of one of his employees who's high as a fucking kite on pot cookies. Like I can't. There's no way not to laugh, right? And it's so entertaining. And yet, to your point, again, it's so down to earth and realistic, and there's some serious shit going on that you can relate to. It's not serious shit that brings you down, like you mentioned, Donnie Darko. You're like, God, this is depressing. This is real shit that you're like, yeah, man, but you're gonna bounce back. You'll figure it out. This shit sucks. You're working at Adventureland as a fucking games guy, but you got mini fucking joints. So it could be worse, right? Or you're listening to some good music, or the guy's chasing you while breaking the laws playing in the background. Like it's just fucking, there's good shit about this movie, and it is entertaining. And when I shit on it, it's because I don't like Kristen Stewart. I can't even say that she's terrible in this movie because she fits the role. It's awkward, it's weird, it's uncomfortable. She's an attractive woman, so it fits with the weird love angles and the sex angles that she has as well. But I just don't like her because she's the same fucking person in every movie she plays, and it drives me crazy. And her weird like faces that she makes when she's uncomfortable, like I don't like her. But that's a me thing, not this movie. And this movie is very entertaining. It's very fun. It's very down and realistic, and I'm going to give it a 4 as well. Like there are some really awkward places where I'm like, that didn't need to be in this movie, but there's some places where you're like, this scene really worked for me. Like at the end when the dude's shooting off, when Frigo's shooting off fucking the candles or whatever, like the Roman candles, and he's like acting like he's going to war, and the two very intelligent human beings are having a conversation, and finally you see James grow up and he punches Frigo in the dick as he runs off. Like I love the first full circle moments. I love it. It's a 4 for me. And I will definitely watch this. I own it. It's one of my favorites to watch all the time. So yeah, it's a great one. Again, like you said, the best of the 4 that we're watching this month. So it's all downhill from here, folks.
Hate to break it to you.
Yeah. But with all that said, Alec, tell everybody where they can find us.
Oh, happy to, JJ. Well, that's another recording in the books. Thank you for tuning into our review of Adventureland. September is once again indie films, and this almost feels like it shouldn't qualify, but it is also as indie as it gets. Special thanks to our patron, Beta Ray Bill, for his picks this month. Some absolute bangers. Yeah, way to go, Beta Ray Bill. Remember when we said it's all downhill from here? Want to get in on the next special category month? Join us on Patreon to be able to vote and pick on categories and the movies that we watch within those categories. With that, I will send it back to Jack Dunn's baby, the Mauling Monarch, a JJ.
Love it. Thanks, Alec. Yeah, it's a fun month. Should be interesting for moving on. But as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out. Whoa!